Hello, everyone. Um, I'm going to attempt to uh, get this thing posted as soon as I'm able to figure out the technology here. I am not that tech savvy. But anyway, this is Ian Cyrus. Um, I am an ordained Buddhist priest of the Five Mountain Zen Order, and I've been getting a lot of questions from folks on Facebook and other media outlets about Buddhism, and one of the things that people ask about a lot is this whole idea of a sutra and a mantra, that sort of thing. Um, Mantras and sutras are somewhat interconnected in that in that you can have a sutra like the Prajna Paramita, which is the great Heart Sutra, and and which is the great heart of wisdom scripture or sutra, and it has a mantra that literally condenses it into a few short um, lines that you can chant. Okay, so uh, we'll take a look at some of that. Um, so I'm going to now go ahead and share my screen with a PowerPoint to help you understand what a sutra is. Okay, so let's see here if I can get this done right. Okay, so here we go. Avalokitesvara is known as the Buddha of compassion. He's also, or she, depending on your point of view, goes by the name Kuan Yin, okay, which is the Buddha of compassion and healing. So, what is a Bodhisattva? To answer that question, because that's a question that I get a lot. Um, uh, in Buddhism, a Bodhisattva is any person who um, who is on a path towards Buddhahood. So that could be any one of us in early Buddhist schools, as well as the modern Theravada uh, Buddhism, which is Theravada meaning wisdom of the elders. A Bodhisattva refers to anyone who has made a resolution to become a Buddha and has received a confirmation or prediction from a living Buddha that will be so. So, um, that's interesting. Um, so, the Bodhisattva, again, is anyone who has made a resolution to become a Buddha. And a Buddha, the term Buddha actually means one who is awake. So that can change from moment to moment. Okay. You could be in a stupor one moment and have a moment of awakening the next. But anyway, we're here to talk about the subject of a sutra. And a sutra or sutta is literally means a string or thread. In Indian literary traditions refer to an aphorism. And an aphorism is basically a short statement of truth. It could be somewhat witty, as it were. Something along the lines of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That would be an aphorism, to give you some example of what an aphorism is. Okay? So, and it could, again, in Indian literature, traditions refers to an aphorism or a collection of aphorism in the form of a manual, or more broadly, a condensed manual or text. Sutras are a genre of ancient and medieval Indian texts found in Buddhism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. So it's not unique. This whole idea of a sutra or thread um, discussing certain truths and principles, it's not unique to Buddhism. It was around before Buddhism, which is Jainism and Hinduism. In Hinduism, sutras are a distinct type of literary composition, a short compilation of short aphoristic statements. Each sutra is any short rule, like a theorem, distilled into a few words or syllables, around which teachings of ritual, philosophy, grammar, or any field of knowledge can be woven, and hence the reference that a sutra is likened to a thread in a fabric. The oldest sutras in Hinduism are found in the Brahmana and Arankaya layers of the Indian Vedas. Every school of Hindu philosophy, Vedic guides for rites of passage, various fields of art, law, and social ethics are uh, developed respective sutras. So a sutra is not even unique to religion, okay, or any deep philosophy for that matter. Which like I said, the Vedic guides. It really is a Vedic guide for rites of passage, um, uh, various fields of art, law, and social ethics all have sutras, which help teach and transmit ideas from one generation to the next. And those of us who are martial arts people, we have that for what it's worth in our practice. In Buddhism, sutras are known as suttas as well. They are canonical scriptures, many of which are regarded as records of oral teachings of the Gautama Buddha. They are not aphoristic as such, but are quite detailed, sometimes with repetition. This may reflect a philosophical root of sutra or sukta, which means well spoken, rather than a sutra or thread. So, this is an example of the Heart Sutra in Sanskrit, the Heart Sutra in Chinese. In Jainism, sutras are known as suyas. They are canonical sermons of the Mahavira contained in the Jain Agamas, as well as some later post canonical normative texts. Now, basically, there are known to be 196 sutras that are divided into four groups, which are as follows: the Samadhi, Pada. These sutras represent a state of reliable, objective, and direct perception. They teach us how to dive into the depths of our minds and reach Kaivalya or detachment. So they help you to detach from your own ideas, your own state of being, and what have you. The Sahadana Pada, 55 sutras. Sadhana in Sanskrit means disciple or devotion. It is related to two forms of yoga, Kriya and Astanga yoga. The Vibhuti-pada, 56 sutras. Vibhuti means manifestations, and it teaches us that some states of mind can be acquired by practicing yoga. And the Kalvana Pada, 34 sutras. These sutras refer to the final stage of liberation or moksha that one can acquire through the practice of yoga. So what you're looking at here now is a series. There's several buildings like this actually in South Korea that houses the largest collection of Buddhist sutras in the world. And this is housed at the temple of, it's housed at the Haeinsa Temple, South Korea, which means the temple of reflection on a smooth sea. Also, and this collection is also listed on the UNESCO World Heritage as one of the UNESCO's World Heritage sites. This is one of the more important temples in Korea as it houses the historical Tripitaka, which means three baskets, which basically refers to the content of the Dharma discipline. So you have Buddhist scriptures that are carved into approximately 81,258 printing blocks. That building I showed you earlier is environmentally controlled to preserve these 81,000 plus printing blocks that the, the scriptures or sutras are written on. So the Haensa is a head temple of the Joige order of Korean Son Buddhism, which also means Zen, by the way, in Gyeosan National Park in South Korea, right? Haensa is most notable for being the home of the Tripitaka Koreana, the whole of Buddhist scriptures carved, like I said, into one. And, there's two figures I came up with, but one is saying 81,258. The other one is saying 81,350 wooden printing blocks. And it has been housed in this way since 1398. So that's of some historical significance. Though there are 196 sutras, different schools and traditions of Buddhism focuses on some of the more well-known sutras, such as the Prajna Paramita, as I mentioned before. That's the Great Wisdom Sutra, also known as the Heart Sutra, the Vajra Chikadaka Dika Sutra, which is the Diamond Sutra, the Sadama Pundarika Sutra, which is the sutra, which is the White Lotus Sutra or the Lotus Sutra. This sutra is a focus of the Tendai, Tiantu, Chiante, and Nichiren traditions. In my particular tradition, the Mahavaipulya Sutra, um, uh, which is basically the sutra of the Perfect Enlightenment Sutra, and is the first studied by members and trainee priests and monks of the Five Mountain Zen order. The Perfect Enlightenment Sutra is divided, particularly since that's what my order focuses on. Um, the Perfect Enlightenment Sutra is divided into 12 chapters as a series of discussions on meditation. This text deals with issues such as the meaning and origin of ignorance, sudden and gradual enlightenment, original Buddhahood, etc. These themes are also elucidated in the awakening of faith. It was intended to resolve questions regarding doctrine and meditation for the earliest practitioners of the Chan, which is also means Zen, or Sun, or Tien schools. The most important commentary is the 19th century great exegesis on the Sutra of Complete Enlightenment or Perfect Enlightenment, and it was written by Da Juejing in the 9th century. So, but anyway, let's look at the Prajna Paramita because this has got to be one of my favorite. It's got to be one of my favorite sutras because it really confirms what physicists are talking about these days. So just let me run through it. You can read along if you like. So the Buddha is addressing, I believe, Avalokitesvara, which is the Buddha, or Kuan Yin, the Buddha of healing and compassion, or compassion and healing. And I think he's also addressing Sariputra, which is one of his main disciples. And he says, Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, when practicing deeply the Prajna Paramita, perceive that 5 skandhas are sunyata, and I'll explain what sunyata means or what a skandha is, and is saved from all dukkha and distress. So reciting the Heart Sutra. Let me say at this point that these sutras are written in several languages, and the most profound language that it's written in is Sanskrit. And when you compare Sanskrit with English, Sanskrit is a very ancient language and nobody is really sure where it came from. But at any rate, Sanskrit has a very high vibrational quality to it. So if while reciting the sutra or its attendant mantra, you don't understand what the Sanskrit words mean, it doesn't matter because these sutras and mantras have such a high vibrational quality. Just the recitation of it increases your vibrational frequency. Okay, so that's the idea you should have. I believe that it should be written in English, so I'm going to give it to you in English because it's easier to connect with your own language than something that's foreign, but it should have the same effect. All right. So the next verse is he says, Sariputra, form does not differ from sunyata. Sunyata does not differ from form. That which is form is sunyata. That which is sunyata, form. The same is true of feelings, perceptions, impulses, and consciousness. I think it's fair to say at this point that the term sunyata, Sanskrit term sunyata, actually means void or emptiness. So I want you to pick up on what the Buddha is talking about here, uh, which is consistent with modern findings in quantum physics. That when you look at substance, if you were to look at it in its microscopic or subatomic form, basically what you're experiencing is space. So, what allows us to experience the world of substance is really the organization of our own consciousness, right? So, there you go. But anyway, he continues to say, um, I just defined it for you. So, again, it says, uh, sunyata in Buddhist philosophy, the voidness that constitutes the ultimate reality. And, and it's not seen as sunyata is not seen as a negation of existence, but rather as the undifferentiation out of which all apparent entities, distinctions, and dualities arise. So the Buddha continues to say, Sariputra, all dharmas are marked with sunyata. So he's saying that all dharmas, including the teachings, are marked with sunyata, which means emptiness or void. They do not appear or disappear, are not tainted or pure, do not increase or decrease. Therefore, in sunyata, no form, no feelings, no perceptions, no impulses, no consciousness, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no color, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of mind, no realm of eyes, and so forth until no realm of mind consciousness, no ignorance, and also no extinction of it, and so forth until no age and death, and also no extinction of them, no dukkha, which is the crux of Buddhist practice and the Dharma, no origination, no stopping, no path, no cognition, and also no attainment with nothing to attain. So this is one of my favorite verses in the Prajna Paramita or the Great Heart Wisdom Sutra or scripture, because what is being told here is that those of us who are on a path, whatever that path might be it religion or the study and practice of Buddhism itself, he's saying it's all subject to sunyata. In other words, it's void. So also those of us who are focused on attaining things like educational degrees, uh, uh, martial arts rank, or in this case, those of us who are in the practice the tradition from a clerical point of view, those of us who are wanting advancement in certain uh, aspects of Buddhism, he's saying that it doesn't matter. Also, no attainment with nothing to attain is all subject to the void or sunyata. He continues to say in the three words, all Buddhas depend on prajna paramita and realize anuttara samyak sambodhi. So what he's saying here by definition is that what the Buddha had experienced was the supreme enlightenment, which in Sanskrit is anuttara samyak sambodhi, the direct and conscious realization of the oneness of the whole universe and of his own unity with all things. This is what enlightenment means. Okay? Therefore, know that the Prajna Paramita is the great transcendent mantra. So there is a mantra, and we'll get to that shortly. It is the great transcendent mantra. It is the great bright mantra, the utmost mantra. So I guess we all should be doing it because it's the utmost mantra. It is also the supreme mantra, so which is able to relieve all dukkha. Dukkha again meaning suffering or pain. Okay? It is pure and not false. So proclaim the prajna paramita. And this is done in Sanskrit. So the way you would say this is gate gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhi swaha. So the SVA is pronounced like swa. Okay? Again, gate gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhi swaha. Gate gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhi swaha. Okay? And if you can keep that central to your moment-to-moment mind, so as you're moving through your day, or if you sit and meditate in the early morning, evening hours, you can proclaim this mantra and keep it central to your mental function, right? So as you're moving through your day, internally reciting gate gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhi swaha, that recitation, or at least when you sit in the mornings, if you or evenings and you do this, oh, by the way, you should do it for about 108 times at the very least. Okay? So that's the nature of Zen, if you want to call it that. You know, most people think that, don't realize that the term Zen is a transliteration of jhana, meaning jhana is spelled Dhyana, jhana. And jhana, actually transliterated in Chinese, is Chan, Chan. In Korean, it's Sun, Seon. In Japan or Japanese, is Zen. In Vietnamese, is Tien, Tien. So the essence of jhana or Zen or Sun or Tien is basically mindful contemplation. It doesn't say anything about meditation. Meditation, uh, it's very hard to find that in any of the real scriptures of the Dharma. But so that was the method that the Buddha used in order to achieve moksha, which is liberation, not enlightenment. Okay? So one of the ways in which we engage in daily practice is to constantly um, try to maintain your moment to moment mind. You know, don't forget your keys sitting on the kitchen table and you're in your car wondering where your keys is, as I've often done. Okay? Or something like that. Okay, or getting into my car and on my way to work and I'm wondering, wow, did I turn off my stove? You know, that sort of thing. If you maintain your moment to moment mind, every movement you make with your body, it's deliberate. So that becomes the simple history of your life. And if something arises that is so troubling, you can simply ask the question, what is this? And who am I? So that makes you the participant observer in your own moment to moment existence and processes. So imagine there's a little image of you that's observing your involvement in just about anything you can think about, whether it's lifting a glass or for that matter, in this moment to moment, when I have a coffee cup in front of me, okay? So the moment to moment mind, you're sitting there and you're looking at this coffee cup with fluid in it, and you see that the fluid is contained within the confines of this cup. Now that fluid can change form. All you have to do is move the cup, right? And it changes, right? It's fluid, right? The next thing you want to do is to grab a hold of the handle of the cup, right? Like I just did, and feeling your hand actually touching the cup and melding with it. So now you've become one with the cup, right? Next, you want to lift the cup, and this feeling of the weight of the fluid in this container registers very clearly in your mind. And as you move it towards your mouth, all right, you realize that that's a miracle to pick it up from where it's sitting and moving it towards your mouth, because you have to engage certain muscles, the grip of your hand. It gets that specific. So you might want to take a moment to really track some very simple things that you do. That expands your awareness. Okay, so nothing is actually taken for granted. All right. So thank you for joining me in this little talk about sutras, and in particular the the Heart Sutra mantra and the Heart Sutra itself. Well, before I go, I promise to tell you what a skanda is. Skanda means heaps or aggregates, collections or groupings. In Buddhism, it refers to the 5 aggregates of clinging. And clinging is really the cause of suffering, all right? Or yearning, or any one of those words that describe a loss of identity through focusing on some other object. Okay, so it says it's the 5 aggregates of clinging, the 5 bodily and mental factors that makes or that takes part in the rise of craving or clinging. So, so a skanda is a very important thing to understand within the context of the Dharma and how it influences, you know, um, you know, and that is inherent in the Four Noble Truths and in the Eightfold Noble Path. All right, so, um, right, so you can look that up. It's pretty simple reading, but it's very profound. Okay, thank you. Namaste.